All right, welcome back to the IMNerd Podcast, guys. I'm your host, Freyway, and I'm here with my co-host, Kenny.
Yes, sir.
And today we have a special guest and a friend, a true friend, actually, who I've known him for at least 15 plus years. Kenny, somewhere around that ballpark or whatever, but we've known each other.
I met him the same year I met you.
Okay, that makes sense. So you've known him for 13 years then, because I met you in January 2010, Kenny, and I met Cairo before that. I actually don't really know exactly when I met you, Cairo, but yeah, our special guest is ATrueHero, aka Cairo King, who recently topped the what is it called? Deck Devastators 3 tournament, the online Edison tournament, a couple of weeks ago now. And yeah, he's a DevaHero player. He obviously believes in the heroes a lot. Even in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, he tries to play heroes and make it work for funsies though. But yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Cairo, aka ATrueHero? I'm not sure exactly what I'm gonna call you this podcast, but
yeah, I mean Cairo, ATrueHero, it's all good. But the best title I've heard so far was a true friend.
That's right.
There's history in that though.
A true friend.
There's some.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you said. All three of us, we've been friends for a long time. Long time.
Cairo, I was actually wondering, like, do you know how we met? Because I was thinking about it today, and I don't remember exactly what our first interaction might have been, or like when I met you. I assume I knew you before I ever won a YCS, though.
Oh yeah, we definitely knew each other 100% before you won a YCS.
Okay.
I remember back in the days when I first started seeing you playing Yu-Gi-Oh before you had your accomplishments, and then all I could think to myself was, "Wow, this player is really fucking good." Like at that point in time, like people knew how good you were, but you didn't have like a large fan base as you do now.
Right.
So there were a lot of people who like, they're like, "Oh, he's good, but he's not good enough." Exactly. I sat behind you some of your sets, and I would watch you play, and I was like, they don't realize this guy's fucking cracked at the game. Like,
I didn't used to travel. It's actually interesting. I tell this story a lot. I guess this is a good time to insert it for people who might be new to the podcast. Welcome. But I never took an airplane until YCS Atlanta that I won. That was the first time I've ever been on an airplane in my entire life. So that YCS, like with Gravekeepers and everything, that was the first time I was ever on an airplane in my entire life, which means that every YCS that happened that wasn't close to Philadelphia, I didn't go to. And back then, because this is way back, but YCSs were mostly not in the Philadelphia area. Luckily, we did used to get a YCS Philly every once in a while, but the rest of them would be in California, Arizona, Houston, stuff like that. Like really, really places that you just could not reasonably drive to. And I did have friends that would, in spite of the distance, they would drive like way too far for me, who was in my teenage years. I just wasn't able to do that. Not to mention the fact that I really didn't have money to go to YCSs either. So I didn't get to travel really as a kid, like at all in my teenage years. In fact, my first flight was 20. So just to give you an idea, that kind of tells you my age too. But my first flight ever, I was 20 years old. And that means I never took a flight in my teenage years ever. So that was one thing. And I used to be known regionally just because of regionals, like actual regionals. But yeah, like you said, I wasn't really known. And, simpler days. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely did know each other before.
As far as like our very first interaction, I don't remember clearly what our first interaction was.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, it goes way back.
Yeah.
But I do remember my first interaction with Kenny. And actually, I wouldn't remember if it wasn't for him, actually. I would let him tell the story because he never lets me forget it.
Well, this is when Cairo maybe was a true villain, one of his other monikers.
Oh no. I plan to take the true villain moniker myself.
We were at a tournament, playing some Yu-Gi-Oh. I was playing Monarchs as I do. And I don't remember if it was game 1 or game 2. I think it was game 2, maybe. I don't remember. But I've got Cairo in a classic Phoenix Wing Blast Ryza loop,
Just that's a very classic.
Putting his cards on top of his deck. He wasn't happy about it. At this time, we don't really know each other. I think we just don't really know each other at this time. Yeah. But anyway, game 3, he loses game 2. I'm pretty sure he won game 1. So game 3, shuffle my deck, boo, 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 boo. Draw my 5. It's Ryza, Wing Blast, Ryza, Wing Blast.
Oh no.
Ryza, and then I drew my 6th card for my turn, Wing Blast. And my opening hand were the 6 cards, that won me the last game, but those six can't win you the game like that.
Yeah, that's really bad.
And anyway, I lost that match to Cairo. It was a good game. I don't know if I shook his hand, but
I will say this: that not shaking hand thing. So a lot of you guys obviously don't know Cairo's personality the way we know it, because again, we've known him for like 15 years now. But Cairo is, for lack of a better word, he can be a gloater. He can gloat a bit and make you feel really annoyed if he's winning. So, because Cairo likes to win. I don't think I've ever met anyone in my life who likes to win as much as Cairo, and that's actually an insane compliment, because I know a lot of competitive people, but I don't think I've ever met somebody with the desire to win as much as him outside of myself.
I want to ask Cairo this: do you remember the first time you came to my house?
Yeah, so actually it's funny, right? Because I remember that you would always invite me over your house, right? And like you said, at that time we didn't even know each other well, but like you found out that I play video games and some of the same common games. So you're like, oh, Carol, like you got to come over, right? So actually, and I don't think I've ever told you this, Kenny, the reason why I finally decided to come over your house that first time, because when we were all at like AU one day, I heard Frazier talking about like how amazing your place was.
I thought Kenny was trying to Dahmer me, to be honest. Like when I was younger, with the first time I ever went over his house, I was like, I just met this guy. He's like, oh, you can come over to my house. And I was like, all right, I'm getting Dahmered. Like I'm definitely getting Dahmered. But I was with it. Like I was fully complicit in it. And nothing bad happened. So I told all the other black guys at the local, you should go to Kenny's house.
Yeah, he's safe. Nah, dude, you two know, but for those of you that don't know, I used to always, like my house, especially the basement, was just like the hangout spot. I used to love having people come over. We would all play video games, hang out and shit. It was a good ass time. And so it didn't take long for me to know if I vibed with somebody. Like some people, like if I clicked with them, like the only reason why I invited Cairo over my house after not really knowing him that much is because based on the small interactions we had, I clicked with him and I was like, oh, this guy's cool. I can have fun and hang out with him. Whereas there's a bunch of other people who I knew longer than Cairo at that point who I never invited over.
Also, in your defense, and I'm just thinking about this in this very moment, I've never been to your house or seen anyone at your house from our locals that I thought was a bad idea to have that person there. I'll say that. So, and the people who you did have over your house, you're still friends with them today, like pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
So it actually, in a weird way, I'm basically saying you have a good judge of character, because all of the people who used to come over to Kenny's basement to play video games, play cards or whatever, they're all still like part of his friend circle today.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Some 15 years later or whatever. Like we're all still friends. We're all still cool. And none of them made me feel like, I really wish you didn't bring this specific person here, because there are some people, you know how it is at locals. If you're listening to this, you know that there's a couple guys or maybe there's just one person at your local that you would never want in your house. Okay. There are certain, so we definitely have a couple of those that is just like, this guy can't know where I live. I would never have him in my place. And it is what it is, right? Like not every place is for everybody, but yeah, Cairo, me, like there's a ton of like Cam was over there at one point. I remember.
Yep.
Yeah. Gary.
He's playing Soul Calibur.
Yeah.
So what were you saying, Cairo?
Yeah, but like, so the reason why I came over was because, Frazier pretty much hyped up your place. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, why not? Like, you know what? He's been inviting me over. And it's just like, when people keep inviting you, eventually they're going to stop inviting you. Right. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Let me go while he still thinks like I'm cool. I'm cool to hang out. So, we get to 69th Street. Okay. We get to 69th Street. And while we're there, he's like, oh, like, it's kind of hard to get to my place right now. We gotta catch the 102. Right. And
the
like
easier one would be like this other bus, but yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know anything, right? Because it's my first time like going, to his place. So I don't know anything. So I'm just like, okay, cool. So we get off the 102 after, some time. And when we get off, it looks like it's the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck did I just walk into?
You thought you were getting done.
It wasn't like daytime. It wasn't like daytime. It was like,
because we went after we were hanging out at Red Caps. So it was like 11 o'clock at night or 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah. So like, and then at one point, I swear to you, we walked past a graveyard. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, this man trying to get me. This man is trying to get me. And I'm just like, oh man, like, but I can't go back because I like, that's it. The 102 goes one way. Like at that time, you're not coming back. So I didn't have a choice, you know? And, you know, it's not like I could call Uber or something like that. So I'm just like, well, I made a mistake. I should never listen to Frazier. Like I made a mistake, you know?
Not I made a mistake.
And, you know, eventually, you know, some more time goes by and then we pull up to this residential neighborhood. I'm like, oh shit, this is nice. I'm like, what happened? You know? And then, you know, we walk inside and I'm just like, oh, you feel the central AC when you walk in?
That's the first thing.
I'm like, and then, you know, Kenny was just talking about his basement and you see the basement, big ass TV hooked up with video game systems. And I'm just like, oh, we're about to have a time.
Yeah.
We're about to have a time.
I have
and, you know, that was like, you know, definitely the beginnings of like a beautiful friendship because it's
man.
From that time I've gone over, you know, Kenny's house like countless of times. Like I can't even count.
We've gone on to play so many games together during the PS3 era. This is before PS4 and all that. Me and Cairo had like this mission. We were like, we are going to own and play, not well, but own and play every fighting game on the PS3. And we had a really good time doing that.
That's right. We did it to the best that we could, right? Because you know what they say, a jack of all trade, a master of none. But regardless, we still like to people's houses to play Street Fighter. We were always playing Smash competitively. We played Soul Calibur. Like we played them all. If the game was at Evo, like to a certain competitive extent, we, you know, played it. We tried to get good at it. You know, the only one that like we weren't feeling as much, but we still wanted to get decent at it was Marvel vs. Capcom. And we said you know, we have to get good at this game to show other people why their game is bad.
Oh shit. That's Kenny likes that. That's one of his favorite things to do. Like I'll read this manga or I'll get into this show or this movie or whatever just so that people know it's bad. So I can argue both sides of the fence. Because when people go, oh, you just have to watch it or you just have to play it for yourself, he could be like, I did, and it's bad. Like that's his thing. But, okay, we can continue where we are. So I actually have my own story of going over to Kenny's house in the early days before I really knew him like that, and we had to catch the alternate route, which was the 102 route. And I had the exact same experience as you, Cairo, where you get off, you realize you're next to a graveyard, and then it just becomes this weird, because we would leave locals at a really late hour. I'm talking like midnight, you know, 1 a.m., stuff like that. Because we would go to Fresh Grocer after locals. We were degenerates with Yu-Gi-Oh! And just, I guess, gaming in general, we were degenerates. So after the local would close at like, let's say 10 or 11, we would then go to the Fresh Grocer, which was a 24-hour grocery store. And they had an upstairs dining area, but we just turned it into locals after hours. And everyone from the locals would go to the Fresh Grocer and chill there until some of them would stay way too late. Like they would stay until literally the sun came up. Kenny and I would pretty much stay for a couple hours. We were like, are you ready to go? And then we would just go to his place and play video games there or whatever. But yeah, the first time I saw that graveyard and we had to walk, it's a good amount of walking too. I did not like the neighborhood because there's this, you get to this one part where there's like an abandoned house and it's just really eerie. Like that whole street is eerie because there's like a cornfield or whatever on one side. Like it's like really high grasses. And then it's just like this abandoned house. It just made me feel so strange. Like, yo, if this white boy attacks me, it's on. Like I'm not going out like that, G. I am not going out like that. But everything was good.
The graveyard, I never thought anything of the grave. Like, I don't know. It's because I've always seen it, right?
Yes.
So I just don't even. And then I remember when we were walking, and at this time, like me and Kyra weren't as close as we are now, but we were friends at this point, right? Just like we were like you know, the friends that you see at work or something, or you're friends, you don't know each other that well yet. So anyway, we're walking, and I remember Kyra was like, "Why the fuck are we going through a cemetery?" Like he was not comfortable at all with the graveyard. Like he was not cool with it.
I mean, can you blame him? But yeah, we had a lot of fun back in the day. Those were simpler times. I often think about how different everything was when you could just spend like several days over your friend's house playing video games, playing cards, shooting the shit, going to Wawa a bunch of times.
Man,
at Wawa Walk.
Yeah,
I remember back in the day. It's because of Kenny. Actually, I actually got a lot better at many fighting games. Because if I would have never met Kenny, I would have never played Street Fighter. I would have never played Tekken. I would have never played Soul Calibur. I would have never played Smash. Like,
oh, wow.
Melee.
You didn't play Smash until you met Kenny?
Well, no, he didn't play Melee until he met me. He played Brawl.
Yeah. So when we were younger, what we used to do, because for those who don't know, I also play Melee. I'm not as good as other people who have been featured on the channel, i.e. Stango, but I'm not bad. I'm definitely better than the average person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, I was terrible, because I only played Brawl. And Brawl and Melee, they're two very different games. And we used to play, if you lose, you got to make the iced tea. Loser has to make the iced tea. So because I was so bad at the time, I'm always the one making the iced tea.
That's
so this went on for like a long time. It's just like, all right, Kyra, you know what you got to do. Like, you got to go and make the iced tea. But I mean, I'm definitely thankful that like I kind of went through that, because those were the training days. Those were the training days.
That's what makes people better. You know what I mean? I'm a good coach. All right, I'm not Kobe Bryant, but damn, I'm a coach. I'll get you there.
That's also a really good bet too. Like, it doesn't hurt anyone. No one's losing money or anything, so it doesn't leave a super bad taste in your mouth when you lose.
And you get to enjoy. In fact, it leaves a good taste in your mouth. You get to enjoy some iced tea.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, well, all I'm gonna say is if we did that now, I wouldn't be the one making the iced tea.
No, that's why we don't do that bet anymore.
Can he let you know exactly who he is?
There's something that these two know about me. I don't make bets if I don't already know I won the bet.
Same with
that
me.
Is true.
I actually I'm the same way. I don't gamble. A lot of my friends love gambling. They love going to the casino. They love playing like, blackjack and poker and all these things. And they always try to coerce me into doing it with them. And I'm just not a fan. They're like, oh, you'd be so good at it. You're great at Yu-Gi-Oh! You would be able to transfer a lot of your skills. So many people are bad. They just throw everything at me to get me to play. They're like, people are so bad, Frazier. It's free money. You go to the casino, you just literally take these people's money. And I'm like, no, I don't. At the end of the day, I just don't want to find myself in a casino multiple times. My casino is going to a YCS. Like, that is the casino for me. That's as far as I'm willing to go.
If it really was that free money, like they would all be rich.
Right? Like, that's how I feel. And none of them are. Literally, none of them are. I might go as far as to say I have more money than all of my friends, which is like, so there's that. So let's just put it there. But okay, I do have some questions for our guest. So, ATrueHero, you recently started your YouTube channel, and it is primarily based on you playing Diva Heroes. You're one of the last people, if not the only person, who's still piloting Diva Heroes in Edison format. The deck in 2022 started off as being considered the best deck at the beginning, but then towards the end of 2022, it saw 0 tops for a couple months, and no one was playing it at all anymore. The main guy who used to play it, Soch's Ruin, he even abandoned the deck and started playing zombies. And so you really are like the last guy playing heroes. And I just want to know, for people who don't know, like, why are you drawn to the hero archetype so much? Has that always been a thing for you, or what is it?
It's funny, right? Because there's 2 aspects of it. The first one is, like, when I was younger, I had a really good friend in high school, and we used to play like Halo together. Okay. And I'm terrible at FPSs, like
Same.
really, really bad. They've never been, my forte, but he was really good at them. And, in Halo, when you killed someone, it'd be like, blah, blah, killed somebody. Right. And like people would try to make like all these like cool names.
Yeah. Mine was the cancer patient for when I was a kid. My name on every single thing was the cancer patient. So when you lost to me, when you got killed by me, it would say the cancer patient killed you.
Yes,
every
exactly.
Time. And that was honestly, considering what was going on when I was a kid and like the names that I would see, I wasn't thinking hard enough, because some people had some fire, like absolute fire. I won't even repeat some of the names that I saw on there, but I get the idea. So yeah.
So because I was so bad and he was so good, like I came up with like a joke. I was like, you know what? This is what we should do, right? One of us should be a hero and the other one should be a sidekick, right? But like, because you're good, you can't be the hero, because it'll be too obvious, right? Everybody will go after you, right? Like, I'll be the hero and then you can be the sidekick, and then no one will go after you, and then you're gonna go on like killing sprees and everything, right? So he's like, oh, again, that sounds like a great idea, right? So like that's how the whole like a true hero thing came up. So it's supposed to be from Halo. Like,
you were a
true hero
killed you. One Punch Man, basically.
But the reality is,
One Punch
like,
Man?
I'm just terrible, And then as far as like why I got into the hero archetype, it just so happened that like because this Halo came out well before like Jade and Yuki. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's cool. They made an archetype kind of like after like my gamer tag and things like that. And then it's just like, I don't know. Like, I really just thought the hero cards in general were like, no pun intended, like cool. So I think Stratos is he's just the do-it-all monster. You know what I mean? Like he carries heroes on his fucking back. And like in the beginning, heroes didn't even have Stratos, you know?
Yeah, they didn't.
So
I was gonna say the hero cards at first, to me, somebody who's super competitive, they were awful. And then Stratos came out and they became literally the best archetype ever created at that time. Like not even close because of Stratos.
Yep.
Which is ridiculous.
It's just like heroes, they always struggled from the problem from the beginning. It's just like essentially they're 2 for 1, right? Or 3 for 1, right?
Yeah.
You have to use polymerization, you have to use 2 cards, and you get 1 monster. And it's just like they weren't good. But over time, like Konami realized that, you know, no one's gonna play heroes until they do something about it. And they came out with cards like Miracle Fusion. They came out with cards like Stratos. And like in today's meta, like Fusion is just fucking cracked. You get pluses when you fuse now.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Fusing
dumb.
now is not even, you fuse from the deck, first of all, most of the time. Or you fuse with your opponent's monsters. It's just nonsense now. It's not even, it's so nonsense, but they did eventually make heroes competitive, like you said, with Stratos, with Miracle Fusion. Absolute Zero, I think, is by far the best fusion monster that they got for a long time. Like that guy requires just, you know, a hero and a water monster. It doesn't even have to be an elemental hero. It could be any kind of hero, which has synergy with D heroes and evil heroes. I didn't know until last year, towards the end of the year, I think, we found out that elemental hero Gaia says like it has to be an elemental hero that you fuse with. So that was a surprise to me.
It's so weird too, because as far as I know, they're part of the same like sub archetype, like Gaia, Absolute Zero. Like they are these elemental, like literal elemental hero boss monsters where like he's a water and a hero.
Yes.
Gaia's an earth and a hero. So it's weird that Absolute Zero doesn't require an elemental hero, it can be any hero, but Gaia needs an elemental hero.
Not to mention, Gaia came out after Absolute Zero, and a lot of people speculate that the reason why it requires elemental heroes because of how powerful Absolute Zero was. If you could just use any hero like Absolute Zero, Gaia and the rest of those wind, fire, whatever, they would have been too much. But like, whatever, heroes deserve it in my opinion because of how many sets. When you play the progression series with Stango, like Cairo and Stango actually play a series together where they go back to the beginning of Yu-Gi-Oh! And they open packs from every set and then like make decks and keep playing each other. So if you know what the progression series is, you know what I'm talking about. They do that and they get to a point where heroes come out in like 05 or some shit. And when I tell you that those sets are just so bad, like there's so many sets where it's like, all I want out of this set is Cyber Dragon. There is nothing else in this set that I want. All of the heroes that came out of the set, everything that came out, Elemental Energy has like a few cards. Like there's always 1 or 2 cards like, oh, Brain Control's in the set. Oh, Pot of Avarice is in the set. And then everything else is unplayable. And so there was a period where, despite the fact that the main character of the TV show, Jaden, would be playing heroes, their cards just were not good. So I hated that because I wanted to like, you know, I grew up watching the Yu-Gi-Oh anime. So I liked Yami Yugi. I liked seeing his decks, his cards and stuff like that. But then when you get to Jaden, to GX, and his cards all suck, I'm like, man, he wins in every duel that he plays on the anime. But then if you try to do any of that shit in real life, it's just not even close to working. And it's a little cheesy too. That's kind of the other thing that this is more of a me thing here, but I would be more of a true villain because I just hate happy-go-lucky characters like Naruto and Asta and stuff like that. Like if you're too happy and too, you know, I guess light, like right, you're on the light side, I typically don't like those characters. I'm more of an Eren Yeager, Yagami Light, Lelouch V Britannia. I'm more of that type of person. So when it comes to characters, I didn't like Jade and Yuki. So heroes naturally bothered me. And as a result, Cairo naturally bothered me. And so we've always had like a really interesting friendship where it's like, you know, you're cool. I like messing with you, but then I hate that you like heroes so much. And I kind of want to make you like despair about them. Like that was a part of being younger. It's like, I want you to not like what you like because you shouldn't like it because it's too nice. It's too happy-go-lucky.
That's right. And also another reason why I kind of was drawn to heroes is, and a lot of people don't know this, right? I mean, the original episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, the first one, so we just said Jaden Yuki, he's known for playing heroes.
Yep.
The first episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX came out on my birthday.
Oh wow.
Oh shit.
So it's like meant to be.
Yep.
It was destined.
Exactly. It came out October 10th, 2005. The first American episode. So it's just like I was already like kind of drawn to here. And all the random fact, you were talking about Naruto. Naruto and I share the same birthday as well, October 10th.
What the
So it's
hell?
like I always thought, yeah, I know. I'm great.
I find you so annoying.
I'm great. I'm great. I'm the main character.
Oh my god, this is not fair.
Yeah. So it's just
random.
like I've always just been attached to heroes because like I thought they were cool. Like the first episode came out on my birthday, and it's just like it's kind of just it was meant to be.
So there was a period back in the day. I remember you used to play Lightsworn. I think you had a stint with Black Wings. I remember like a lot of your decks, long ago. And I guess now that Yu-Gi-Oh got to a point where all of us kind of quit. Like you moved to Korea. So for people who don't know, like Cairo currently resides in actual Korea. And you moved from the States to Korea. And so we don't really get to see you as much anymore, except around, like holiday season, whatever. But when you moved, you also mentioned that like you stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh to us. This is kind of like an off-camera conversation that we had recently. But do you want to talk about your younger Yu-Gi-Oh days and how when you left, like what you were leaving behind to go to Korea?
So it's just like I always loved Yu-Gi-Oh, and I always tried to win. But like when I was younger, I wasn't very good. You know what I mean? Like I just loved the game.
Same.
And I would get better and better and better, but like I was never good enough to like, win like a YCS or like, win like a really large scale tournament.
Yeah.
And as I got older, I just was like, well, I'm going to Korea and like it's time to like, put the toys behind and like become an adult. Also, at that time, I think like, there wasn't really like a heavy online Yu-Gi-Oh like presence because like Dueling Network was having like some issues like with lawsuits and things like that. And like in Korea, they don't play the TCG. You know what I mean? So it's like, even if I wanted to play Yu-Gi-Oh in Korea, I can't.
I never even thought about that. You're in the OCG.
Yeah, right. Technically it's the OCG over here. So it's just like, I can't play Yu-Gi-Oh even if I wanted to. So I gave all of my Yu-Gi-Oh cards, literally all of them, to my cousin, right? And my cousin, like I grew up playing Yu-Gi-Oh with him, and like he's kind of the reason like I stayed in the game because we would always have this like rivalry between us, and like he's in Alabama, and it's like we would train, like he trained for 9 months, I trained for 9 months, and then like during the summer vacation, like I'd go down there and we'd see like who got better like during the 9 months, and I just gave everything to him. I was like, I'm going to Korea. Like, this rivalry, like it's over. Like you can have all of my cards. So I literally gave every last single card that I own. And at that point, I had a decent collection. And I just gave them away because I was done with the game.
Around when
I came to Korea, I left to Korea in 2016. So it was 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So,
you left to Korea in 2016 and it feels like you've been there for 10 years to me.
I mean, hey, almost, right? It's 2023.
It's not far from 10.
Yeah. It's closer to 10 than it isn't. So it's, it's only 3 years away from being 10 years. But yeah, it just feels, I felt like, I don't know why I was going to say you left to go to Korea in like 2014 or something crazy. But even still, 2016 is actually, now that we're in 2023, 2016 is actually far away. It's just weird because I remember 2016 very, very well because of a lot of things. Music. I remember where Yu-Gi-Oh was, like The Life of Pablo by Kanye West dropped that year. Kendrick Damn was coming out around that time. Like a lot of good projects came out in 2016.
Drake came out that year.
Views did come out in 2016. Yep. So there's a lot that happened in 2016. And that is actually now, 7 years ago? Like it's so crazy to think about.
I remember when like leading up to Cairo leaving to go to Korea. Me and him were hanging out like a lot of the days. I think it might have been the day before he left, like literally the day before he left to go to Korea, his last day. We went to go see Deadpool in theaters, I think.
That's right. It was. It was.
So yeah, we saw Deadpool in theaters and then like we hung out. And then I remember we were just like hanging out, like out in like this fucking field or whatever. And we were just like talking about how he's going to be leaving and like just all of this different stuff, like having like a heart to heart and friends and stuff. And then I remember making a joke, because I don't remember if Trump already won the presidency or if he's about to win. And not to get political, but I was like, you better be careful. You might not make it. They might not let you back in, man. Like, they might not let you. Like, when you go, like, they might not let you back.
Yo, that's real, though. 2016 was an election year too, so I didn't think about that at the moment, but that's very
actually
true.
he I don't think he was elected at that time. But then like I think he got elected.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy times. So
that was a great.
Go ahead, Kenny.
I was going to say that was like a great like last week. I remember we were hanging out and like I met like some of your other friends who I never met before. It was a good time.
So you leave the United States, you go to Korea, you pretty much say, all right, well, Yu-Gi-Oh's done for me at that point. And then many years later, I guess now, 2022 happens and you find out about Edison format. How did you find out about Edison format?
That's a really good question. This is the thing, right? Even though one reasons why, Yu-Gi-Oh players don't quit Yu-Gi-Oh is because you make so many good friends playing Yu-Gi-Oh. You know what I mean? And like, even if you leave the game behind, you can't leave your friends behind, and then your friends are still playing.
Yep.
So it's just like, when I look at like my Facebook, a good portion of my friends come from Yu-Gi-Oh. Like I have a lot of like Yu-Gi-Oh friends like on Facebook. So it's just like, even though I wasn't playing Yu-Gi-Oh anymore, I was still kept abreast of what was happening in the Yu-Gi-Oh community. Like I knew who was winning the YCSs.
Mm-hmm.
I knew like, for example, like the top decks of the format. Like I knew everything about it. And then, from time to time, right, when Dueling book came out, I'd play a little bit of modern Yu-Gi-Oh like here and there, because like you said, I tried to play Heroes in modern format and that shit was garbage. But anyway, I played like here and there, but like not how it was before. When I say here and there, I mean like literally maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Like I really didn't play Yu-Gi-Oh. But then I saw like Edison format was having like a really big Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. I saw it like from a YouTube video. First, I probably heard about it from like one of my Yu-Gi-Oh friends. Then I saw it from like Keegan's like YouTube video. And I was like, oh, like this is pretty cool. And I think it was already after the first tournament. I think it was around the time of the second one, RBET2. And I was like, oh, like this is really cool. But at that time, like Edison format, like I wasn't familiar with it. I was like, like what cards are good in Edison format? And then, my initial reaction was probably the same as a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players. Like, oh, they don't have the good cards. There's no solemn warning. There's no glow up bulb. You know what I mean? XYZs aren't out. And I was just like, I don't know. But then like I got to play and I was like, oh, I really like this format. Because I think Yu-Gi-Oh, in my opinion, was at its peak right before Pendulums. When Pendulums came out, for me at least, it started to slowly go downhill. So I was like, oh,
Yu-Gi-Oh's had a couple dark periods, but you're not wrong.
And I got into playing it, and like I was asking you guys because I wasn't familiar with the format because I think you guys started playing a little bit before me. Like, oh, like I want to play Heroes, but I'm sure that they suck. And I remember you said at that time, oh no, Heroes they actually have done. They had the most tops at that time.
Yeah, at that time it was doing the best basically out of all the.
And it was like everybody was saying, people were like, "Oh, it's the best deck."
Yeah.
But then, of course, after that, nobody saw success with the deck afterwards. The deck just it fell off. And then as time went by, we began to see the power of Black Wings and.
The Black Wing summer because that's kind of I want to say when it started to really get bad. Black Wings from the summer to the end of the year just dominated so much, and it started to look like Edison format was just going to be Black Wing format, and that was a bit depressing. I think that all of us kind of slowed down a lot on Edison at a point because of just what was happening. Like everybody was playing Black Wings. The Black Wing mirror match, spoiler alert, is terrible. It's one of the worst mirror matches ever. It's very, very, very low on skill and interactions that actually like will dictate who wins, and more on just like I drew more Siroko's, traps, and whirlwind. Like it honestly comes down to that a lot of the time, especially when two people are pretty decent. If somebody's just really, really awful, they can fuck it up, but it's not. I think it's hard to even fuck it up, to be honest. Like some hands are just so blatant, and it's like, oh, I literally have more Siroko's than you, and I'm probably going to beat you because of it, or I drew brain control at the right time, stuff like that. So the Black Wing mirror match is terrible, and if everyone plays Black Wings, then the format actually suffers. I'm very happy that is not what happened, and people like you who keep things like Diva Hero alive. You got the fairy decks, which people believe is they think it's a positive matchup against Black Wings. Not that debatable or not. isn't the point. The fact that people are willing to play other decks is a good thing. Monarchs and Hero Beat and Light Sworn and Christia Sworn and the new Machina control decks are still coming out. Like we're still getting new decks. The deck that won the last tournament, Chaos Fairies, that wasn't really a thing before. Like I didn't see that top any tournament before it won a couple weeks ago. So like,
it's crazy the amount of innovation that's still happening, because there's tournaments pretty often in Edison, like big tournaments, like fairly often.
Every other month at least.
I feel like almost every one there is like some new shakeup deck that's like, whoa, nobody was playing. And it's how consistently there's a new deck type that people are like, oh, nobody was playing that. And like the card pool hasn't changed. It's just
it can't. That's the best part about it. The card pool is locked. It is locked. So whatever is in there, that's it. We have to figure it the fuck out. And I love that about it, because you don't have to worry about, oh, they're going to change this or that. The ban list might come out and mess up your deck. You got to buy this new set. Nope. Once you buy your Edison cards, that's it. Like you just have your deck forever in theory. And I don't foresee a future yet where the community starts to do like a Smoggin thing where we start to ban Brain Control and Dust Shoot, even though those things would be
if they do that,
welcome
the format
additions.
goes downhill. Format goes downhill at that point.
I would love it though for certain cards that are super problematic. Like honestly, I think if they just said Brain Control and Dust Shoot are banned, like just those two, I think we would be playing in a 10 times healthier format just with those two cards going.
Yeah.
But once you start,
I don't know. It's like the thing is, it's just like it's one of those things where it's a domino effect. It starts with, like you said, just Brain Control, and then it goes into Dust Shoot, and then it's like, well, we got rid of Brain Control, we got to get rid of Mind Control. Oh, like it's just like it's kind of like this is a discussion like me and Kenny had a long time ago. I see him shaking his head a long time ago with Pokemon and like Megas, right? And for those who are unfamiliar, like in Gen 6 and Gen 7, like the Pokemon company, like Game Freak's new kind of like thing for Pokemon was Mega Evolutions. And like they were, for the most part, pretty balanced. But there were some that were clearly better than others. And it's just like the community saw it as a problem. So like, oh, like, you know, we don't want to get rid of the mechanic completely because we think it's cool. So, you know, we'll just pick off a couple. And like, as they started picking off a couple, then new Mega Evolutions that weren't a problem became a problem, because now this one's gone. So now this one's the king. Now that one's gone. So now this one's the king. And it eventually led to them just banning like Mega Pokemon that should have never been banned. And like, I feel like this kind of same situation would happen with Yu-Gi-Oh.
So let me give some counter argument to this. All right. So what you're saying is, we know the world is fucked up, but let's keep it the way it is, because if we touch one thing, we have to keep touching things after that. And while that has happened in other communities, that doesn't mean that you don't stop a problem when you know something is a problem. Like, I think what needs to really happen is you need a really good community, a actual council of people who are intelligent and not just shitty losers in some basement making up rules, because often what happens with that is you get situations like what happened with Smoggin and Megas, and whether they were right or wrong, right? A lot of people did not like what happened. What I am suggesting is more so, there is no argument for Trap, Dust Shoot, and Brain Control to be left in the game. They're just not good for the game. They are in every single deck and they are unhealthy cards. Like, there is nothing about them that is good for the game. And after they are gone, you couldn't even argue that any one archetype is hurt more by having them gone. Like, you can't even be like, oh, well, now that those two are gone, this card is super problematic. Like, Mind Control doesn't even compare to Brain Control. And this is the type of thing that a strong council of people with like real thinkers, and it has to come down to a vote and everything. This is where they say, like, we don't need to get rid of Mind Control. Mind Control is actually not as problematic as any of the other cards. Like, for example, somebody on my channel said that Gores is too problematic and a lot of games are won by Gores. And I responded today and said that Gores is not problematic. Gores literally requires a specific action from you in order for it to even be used at all. And so you can play around it to probably the highest degree of any other card in the entire format. It is one of
probably the most played around card
in the entire format. And the fact that you can do that means that it's not problematic. But do you see, and no offense to this person who wrote the comment, but do you see how a person thought that Gores is so problematic that it should be out the format? That's dangerous, right? Because that's basically what you're saying, is that somebody could say, now we have to get rid of Gores. And that's when you need people to be like, no, why would we get rid of Gores? Gores is literally, you can, if somebody drops a Gores on you and you lost because of it, you did something. Like, you had to do that to make Gores playable. And it's just like one example of what I mean by having a council of people who are able to think and actually offer real arguments as to why things need to go or not go is a big deal. But I think in the case of just brain control and dust shoot, there really doesn't need to be anything else that 100% is so problematic that it should go. I really just hate those two cards specifically, and that could just be a me thing, but I think that those two cards create the most non-games, and you didn't really deserve to win this game scenarios for Edison format. That's just like a...
Right.
Like, those two cards specifically are like the most ignorant, and I don't care about any of the other, like Oppression is fine, Coldway is fine, JD, Christia, Dark Arm, like all of those cards are fine. You still need some power cards in the format. I don't want to go down the whole list and be like, now Dark Arm's too much, now JD's too much, now Christia is too much, now Substitute is too much. Like, no, let people play their decks, but two cards that are splashable in every single deck, like Brain Control and Trap Dust Shoot, they're in all the decks. Like, if you're not playing it, your deck is probably just not good. Like 99.9% your deck is not a good deck if it's not playing those cards. So like that it's just annoying. It's just really annoying when you have stuff like that, but not to get like too sidetracked. But I understand what happened with the Megas, because me and Kenny actually talked about that on this podcast too. About the Megas.
The thing is the sad part is unfortunately it's all a pipe dream, because Konami's never going to allow that to happen anyway.
Well, no, we don't need Konami for that though. We're talking about like all the tournaments that are happening online on Dueling Book.
Yeah.
Like they don't require Konami anyway.
But it's one of those things that's like, and maybe I misunderstood the push before, but I remember like initially there was like a big push to even getting Konami to recognize Edison, and now like the fact that they do, I assume, you know, they want to like continue to push that and continue to have Konami support it, and then branching off and making another format and fragmenting it more might, I don't know.
I agree with that too. I agree that if you start to fragment it, it could like derail what's happening with Konami. But I will say, so far, Konami, the most that they've done is side events. Yeah. I don't know. We don't know if they'll ever go past that. Like the biggest thing that could happen is they actually announce a Time Wizard YCS. That would be fucking insane. And
I don't think that's impossible. Like the fact that, the fact that 3v3 YCSs exist, which is something I never would have guessed would be a thing, but it's such because. And I know that this isn't how they do the 3v3 YCS, but since the dawn of Yu-Gi-Oh, I think everybody has liked the idea of like tag duels or team duels because of like the Paradox Brothers, and then there was the PSP games Tag Force, and team duels have always been part of Yu-Gi-Oh, but they've never been actually supported in any way. So anyway, a 3v3 team YCS, even though it doesn't play under like those format, but a team YCS in general is such a cool thing and something I never thought they would have done. So I think it's possible that we do get a Time Wizard YCS one day.
Yeah, I do too. And that's why I think we talked about this with Joji Orlando, and you uploaded a clip to the YouTube channel recently. So we're all in agreement. We want a Time Wizard YCS for sure. And I think that if you have a side community that's like doing their own ban list and stuff, I don't really know if that will make Konami not want to do it. Cause it's like, they don't really acknowledge a lot of things. They're not like Nintendo, where Nintendo kind of will spite side communities and tell them like, you can't have this event now, you can't do this or that. Like Konami, so far, even with Dueling Book being around for almost a decade, they really haven't gone out of their way to like cease and desist or destroy side communities that are Yu-Gi-Oh communities. I haven't seen that happen yet. So I don't know if like Deck Devastator tournaments and Ribbit tournaments saying these two cards are banned, in addition to the actual Time Wizard format ban list, would make it where Konami would be so mad. They're like, we're not giving this community anything else now. Like, I don't, and that's not what you're saying, but I'm just saying that like, if people think that is enough of a deterrent to not touch problematic cards, I think that's a silly reason to be like, oh, I'm in fear of the company that owns the game, that they might retaliate if we acknowledge that these cards are problematic. Like, I think that's kind of a silly idea. But yeah, I do think that the game for Edison format is pretty healthy, like overall. Like it's one of the more healthy formats. You get turns, your decision making can matter a lot of the times, which is important. Going first is very powerful, but name a format where it pretty much isn't.
I just think it's cool that at one point this was moving in a direction where people thought it was Diva Hero format, and then that deck died.
Yes.
And now, like, we have Cairo here who still believes in the deck, still plays it really well. And I wanted to ask, because you did just top like a pretty big tournament, and you topped the tournament, you're using heroes, and I don't know, just continuing what we're talking about. Like, what about the Diva Hero deck do you think still works? And like, because people have abandoned it. So what do you think they're missing? What still works about it? What, how'd your run go?
I mean, the thing about Diva Hero is, first of all, Absolute Zero is a nutty card. Like, let's just start there. When he leaves the field, he's blowing up your opponent's.
He's Raigeki.
They're monsters. Yeah, he's Raigeki. So first of all, Absolute Zero is an absolute nutty card. He's still good that even in actually like modern Yu-Gi-Oh, he still sees some play too. Absolute Zero is like a really, really, really good card. So there's that. And then secondly, when you think about like the deck's weaknesses, right? Like deck's weaknesses are exploited games 2 and games 3 when your opponent can side against it, right? So Absolute Zero is one of the decks where it's very difficult to side against. Now, I'm not saying that, you can't side against it, because that's just a lie. There are definitely some cards out there that really hurt the deck. But for the most part, like, let's say you're siding DD Crow. If you pull DD Crow at the wrong time, it doesn't do anything. I already have too many heroes. I already have too many warders. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen people side Shadow Imprisoning Mirror against me. It's just like, okay, I have water monsters. I have wind monsters. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I even have earth monsters, games 2 and 3. Like, Shadow Imprisoning Mirror isn't going to like make it so that I lose the game. Same thing. One guy sided like Consecrated Lights against me. Like, this happened in tournament in real life. Like, a guy sided Consecrated Light against me, and I kind of just like laughed.
That's a weird like, side deck.
Okay, to put it in context,
his defense,
he didn't know what Cairo was playing.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay.
In his defense, game 1, he opened up absolutely fucking nutty, like quick draw, debris, like lone fire. Like, he opened up like literally like the perfect hand. And like
so he blew you out without knowing what you had game 1.
Right.
And then he sided in, and I don't know why, but he sided in a very narrow card that you need to know you need to know the matchup to side in a card like that.
Yeah.
There's so many decks that could just not like that's just cards that
like
working.
If you just saw a Caius and a Sagan and you're like, oh, this guy's on all darks, like what the fuck?
So I mean, like, I do like the fact that, like, 1, the boss monster is really good. 2, it's hard to side against. And 3, because there's so many like puzzle pieces to Absolute Zero, it has a lot of outs. Like, for example, if you like playing Monarchs like Kenny, I'm playing Triple Caius. We can play the Monarch deck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you like just beating down your monsters, well, here we go. We got Stratos, we got Greffer to beat them down. You know what I mean? Like to play like a control style. Like, there's control elements to Absolute Zero as well. So it's just like Absolute Zero kind of, if you like playing synchros, like it makes all the best synchros in the game, So it's just like Absolute Zero takes like the best parts of, every deck of the format and puts them together nicely. You know what I mean? But with any deck, and this is Absolute Zero's biggest problem, is Absolute Zero, I say all the time, it only loses to 2 things, okay? The first thing Absolute Zero loses to is itself. Like, sometimes you draw hands and you can't play the game. You know what I mean? Like, you draw double Molly, you draw like double Miracle Fusion with like no waters or no heroes. You know what I mean? Like, you draw Dark Arm, Caius. It's just like, there are a lot of like bad combination of cards that
because the deck has a lot of combo pieces, but then some you don't want to see malicious. You don't want to see like you definitely. I don't know if you still play Spined Gilman, but you definitely don't want to see Spined Gilman.
Oh, I see that guy literally all the time. He's like my best friend. It's just like when I don't draw him, I'm just like, oh, this is a pleasant surprise, But I'd rather draw Spined Gilman every game than draw Double Mally. So
I want to say this because I always put this into words, and I like the way I put it. Diva Hero, a deck that I started out playing Edison format with last year because it's a deck that McCabe gave to me. I realized very quickly what was wrong with it, and it is basically what both of you are saying. It has 3 requirements. You need to see the water, you need to see the heroes, and you need to see the actual Miracle Fusions. Yep. And when you only see 2 of those 3, it can really suck. And so that's one of its biggest problems where you like start to lose to yourself, because there have been games that I've played with the deck. It's so frustrating. You'll see water and heroes galore and it's just flowing and you're waiting. You're like, God, please, let me just draw Miracle Fusion now. At this point, I just need Miracle Fusion. I have everything set up. I have too many waters and too many heroes for him to DD Crow me. Nothing he can do will stop a Miracle Fusion. You just need to draw it. And you just don't draw it. And it's so frustrating when that happens. Or obviously the other thing happens when you draw Miracle Fusion, which is really bad. And probably the worst thing that could happen because Miracle Fusion is literally dead, whereas the water and the heroes, they are still playable even if you don't draw Miracle Fusion. So you could theoretically like win games. And I'm sure both of us have like won games just drawing the deck without Miracle Fusion. But when you draw Miracle Fusion with no water or Miracle Fusion with no heroes, that is like infuriating. You're just missing one part. And that's kind of where like the gold Sarks and stuff come in.
Right. So I was actually going to mention that after I, finished answering, about the weaknesses, right?
Yep.
But the second weakness is, cards that prevent special summoning. Because Absolute Zero in Edison format, there's not a lot of special summoning going on compared to modern Yu-Gi-Oh. Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is special summoning left, right. Like Black Wings, they definitely special summon a lot because they have Bora, they have Gale, they have a lot of ways to special summon. But Absolute Zero heavily relies on special summon. So when you're going up against cards like Royal Oppression, Vanity's Fiend, like Fossil Dyna, like these cards are really, really problematic against for Absolute Zero. So like, those are like definitely the two biggest weaknesses of the deck. And like the first weakness, one way you can kind of like navigate through that is through Gold Sark. And the reason why I got the idea to play Gold Sark was actually because of Frazier, because first Frazier mentioned that Sean McCabe, who was playing the deck, was playing Gold Sark, and he saw a lot of success through it. I was actually playing Gold Sark actually right before then, and then Frazier mentioned it. But then I took Gold Sarks out of my deck, and then we were doing some play testing, and then Frazier was like, Cairo, you're doing the wrong thing. Like, I'm not scared of your deck anymore. Like, you're relying on your deck to draw well, and it doesn't. And, if you don't put these Gold Sarks back in, you're basically asking to lose. He's like, what about your deck list that you came in 9th place with at, the RBT? And I was like, yeah, I was playing Gold Sark. And he was like, well, I don't know why you're not playing it now because your deck's not going to do anything.
You know what I will say? You brought up McCabe. That guy is a fucking master at deck building. I don't know how he does it. I don't know what part of his brain is different than ours and everyone else's, but like McCabe, as a lot of came up with the Gravekeeper deck. And even with other, like he came up with a lot of decks throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's history. I won't get into all of them, but another one is just like Card of Demise Cosmo. If you remember that, one of me and his last tops playing Yu-Gi-Oh in 2016. He created that deck. That deck was not a deck before McCabe made it. Like literally he created another deck that was a meta deck. Like Card of Demise Cosmo became a deck because of him. And it got both of us a top at Rhode Island in 2016. Crazy to think about. But even with Edison format, he barely plays, by the way. He's barely at AU playing Edison. But him just thinking to himself, okay, Diva Hero's good. What is it? But it's missing something. He just knew, like, Gold Sarcophagus is the card you put in this. And it fixes so many of the deck's problems. It bridges the gap so well. And I didn't realize it either. Even when me and Cairo were playtesting for RBET Rulers, I was helping him playtest. And the first set we played was really weird because I'm playing Black Wings and he Sarks, and I actually killed him before he got to see his card, right?
Yep.
So that one game, that happened. And then the next game, I ended up winning because, let's just say, oppression. I don't remember what happened. After that, though, we played 3 more sets, and I got destroyed in the next 3 sets. And I remember distinctly what was happening, because I know when I lose, I know exactly what happened. Like, I know exactly what went wrong. And every single game, it was the same thing. It was Gold Sark at some point in his first turn, and search for a card like Brain Control, Heavy Storm, Dark Armed, and then wait 2 turns and literally establish a field that is so crazy, if not outright OTKs me. And that was happening, like, again, 3 sets straight. I just could not win a set, like, no matter what. I just got destroyed for 3 straight sets. And every single time I was like, man, Gold Sarking is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's funny how good that card is, because I think for a long time, I think now, well, I don't know. Anyway, I think for a long time, people didn't respect Gold Sark because they argued it was too slow. They also said, like, well, your opponent knows what you're getting, so they can plan for it. At the end of the day, your opponent doesn't know the rest of your hand. And also, if they can't out it, they can't out it. And, like, you're adding a card to your hand, you're adding a consistency. And it's like, and it's not that slow, depending on the format. In Edison, I don't think it's that slow. Like,
it's not.
It
you
just
pretty much always get your card. It's very. I opened up Whirlwind Shura and killed him in 2 turns. That is like my best hand, right? So,
and you can search literally any card. Like the fact that there's no restriction on what it searches.
I've actually seen Cairo beat people multiple times now where he Sarks out Brain Control. And I don't know what happens to his opponents, but they like play perfectly into this 2 turns later brain control and lose. I mean, literally the last tournament, Deck Devastators 3, there was a dragon guy who summoned 5-headed dragon and like had a Phantom of Chaos on the field. And Cairo blatantly is getting brain control or had brain control already from Gold Sark. So it's like, you know, I have brain control. You just summoned a 5,000 attack power monster and you have a Phantom of Chaos on the field. So, and your life points are below 5,000. Like I'm going to kill you. I don't know what you're.
Well, I'll tell you what, Cairo has a YouTube video on his channel, ATrueHero, where the whole video is about how most people lose Yu-Gi-Oh! Most of the time when you win Yu-Gi-Oh, you don't win because you won. You win because they lost.
Yeah,
that's true. But yeah, I agree with what you said though, Cairo. The 2 things that the deck loses to are itself and things like Royal Oppression, Vanity's Fiend, Christia, etc. Those type of things, like even False Diner to a degree, but you have a couple outs for that one, and you can mitigate those outs. The strengths of the deck, though, you mentioned those, but I want to say this. This is something that I've been noticing about zombies, and I just counted your deck. I have your deck list up right here in front of me, and I just counted the number of cards that are at 1 in the format in Diva Hero.
Oh my God. It's also
go ahead.
What? So it's so funny. Before you tell the number, I got to tell this story. Before you tell the number.
All right, go ahead.
I was going against this guy on Dueling Book, and I'm not going to reveal his Dueling Book name because I don't want him to get bitter. And then, like, you know, he said, "Oh, you sacked me. You pulled so many 1-ofs." And I was like, "Bro, do you not know what deck I'm playing?" And I just started literally listing our cards. I was like, "We got Mind Control, we got Sand Game, we got MST, we got Future Fusion, we got Dark Arm, we got Plague Spreaders on me, we got Stratos, we got Rhoda." And it's just like the list goes on and on and on. And I'm like, so you're gonna tell me I sacked you because I pulled 1-ofs? And I was like, when literally, because I don't know the exact number because I didn't count.
I know the
exact I was like,
number.
literally, at least half of my deck must be 1-ofs. He's like, "Oh, well, you know what I mean? Like, bro, like you couldn't have pulled them in that order." I'm just like, bro, just quit your bitching, bro.
Yeah,
it's
at the end of the day, the zombie deck and the Diva Hero deck both play a lot of 1-offs. So the exact number, before I, spoiler alert, give that out, I want to say how many are in the zombie decks. Zombies typically play anywhere from 22 to 24 1-ofs in their deck.
That's fucking crazy.
The Diva Hero deck that Cairo is playing plays 19 1-ofs, which is half of his deck. His deck is 40 cards. Okay, most people are playing 40 cards, thank God. But the deck plays 19 1-ofs, the deck from Deck Devastators 3 that he just top 8'd with. So just to put in perspective, basically half of his cards are limited to 1, and they're obviously limited to 1 because they're powerful cards like Dark Arm, Mind Control, Brain Control, Future Fusion, Allure, you know, you get it, like Return, all that stuff. And it is very hard, and this is something that I've been realizing about the Diva Hero deck and Zombies also. It's kind of hard to play against those decks because of how sporadic they could be. Like, they can be very random in the way one game will play out compared to another game because of the one. Like, you might lose a game to Cairo's Diva Hero deck just because he drew Return. Like, Return is the card that literally, if he didn't have that one card, you would have won. If he had any other card, and it was Return.
The reason why those 1-ofs are 1-ofs is because, like, they're really strong. They can do swingy things. So, like, Return is a swingy card.
Very swingy. Brain Control, and Future.
Yeah, like, those are all really swingy cards. And so when you see them, like, somebody might be like, "Oh, I got sacked," right? But like if half of my deck is 1-offs, like, you didn't get, that's half my deck. Like, half of my deck are these power cards. Like,
yes, and they really matter. Like the Gores and the Tragodia, because of Gold Sark, those cards pair so well with Gold Sark. You Gold Sark and you just wait 2 turns. When it usually Cairo likes to go full open field. Like, I'm not setting anything on the field. You have to either buy into my Gores or not. And a lot of times the scary thing is that he actually does have the Gores. So it's not like I'm just passing with open field to make you think I have Gores. This motherfucker actually does have the Gores, on top of the fact that, you know, he could be bluffing. Some games it's a bluff, and some games he has it. You can't tell the difference. And that really sucks because Gores is very, very powerful. It does require you to play into it, but to a degree, it's like, well, I don't want to wait 2 turns. So it makes your opponent get more aggro than they probably should. And that ruins you. It's such a cool thing about the relationship between Gores and Gold Sarcophagus. So that's kind of what I'm getting at there. But yeah, the deck plays 19 1-ofs. And that is just annoying. Again, like 3 Caius is also very good. Caius is basically, it is the most played card in Edison. It is a lot of times categorized as like the best card in Edison, but I don't think people mean that literally, because that's just brain control. But like, Caius is the most played card in Edison. It's the most popular card in Edison. And if you look at any tournament, if you take every single deck list from every single tournament and just add up the number of Caiuses, it is going to be the number one card. And I think Keegan and a couple other channels have actually done that statistic for us, so we know that.
Is that an unfair thing though? Because like Caius, you can't play 3 brain control. Like my question is, every deck that has Caius in it, does that deck not also just have brain control?
Every deck pretty much has brain control no matter what.
Yeah, so like it's because I'd argue that like brain control is just as played as Caius, just that you can't play 3 of them.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can have 3, so it raises the number of actual Caiuses. But
yes, that's why I use 2 distinct things. I said one of them is the most popular card and most played, but then some people like to call it the best card, which I don't think is real to say Caius is the best card because, like, first of all, that just discredits every card limited to 1. And Konami does know what they're doing, limiting cards to 1. Like, some of the cards that are at 1 because they are fucking ridiculous. Like, if Dark Arm was at 3 in Edison format, it'd be called Dad format 2.
Yeah,
it would be Dad format 2 if Dark Arm was at 3. So like, let's not get crazy here. And Dark Arm is way better than Caius. It's not even slightly close. It's not even a little bit close. So like, obviously, yeah. But I just had to make the distinction between popular and best or whatever. And you know, people can debate what the best card is. Some people think it's this or that. I don't really care. You could be delusional if you want to. It's brain control, and it's really just not even. It is just scary. I was watching a couple videos of Deck Devastators 3 and people who topped or whatever. And a lot of the replays, a lot of the games, winning or losing, were just brain control. Like the whole game summed up to at the end of it, when the game concluded, the last card that was played was brain control. When the game ended, before the admit defeat thing came up, brain control was the last card played. And like, I hate throwing out random statistics, but I'm gonna just throw out a random statistic. At least 70% of the games, brain control on the winner or loser side was the last thing played. It's so obnoxious. It's so fucking obnoxious.
2 things on that note, right? One thing, we have the game that you were just, mentioning earlier, where I was going against the 5-headed dragon player and I won because of brain control. But that scenario, he played into it, right?
He blatantly played into it. He knew you had it.
Right. And then the reason why my tournament run came to an end actually is because of brain control.
Oh shit.
At the end, I was going against Frogs, and like she didn't have anything. I had vanities up on board, and Frogs and vanities, like good luck. Yeah. She only had like 1 or 2 cards in her hand, and she just plays brain control. And I'm like, yep, that's it.
Yeah, it's really it steals a lot of games. It's very, 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 very powerful card. You could argue that it's a necessary evil too. Like I say that almost every board is breakable because of brain control, which is kind of
it's funny that you mentioned that, right? Because that gets into why, like, don't get me wrong, I fucking hate brain control.
Yeah.
And we had this discussion long time ago, right? Long time ago. I hate brain control. I hate Royal Oppression more, but I hate brain control.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I do think that it's only because of the nature of the deck that I play. But I do think that it's just like you said, brain control, like, everyone's playing it. It's definitely over centralized. It's really powerful. The cost is irrelevant. You're always going to have 800. Yep. And if you don't, you're doing something wrong. But like, I just think it's a necessary evil because there are some boards that can only be broken because of brain control.
Yep.
And it's just like, it does suck losing the brain control. Like, I hate the fact that I lost, the tournament because of brain control. But it's just like, I wouldn't want to edit Edison format to take out Dutch Shoot or to take out brain control. It's just like, I'd rather just deal with those problems. But that's just me personally.
Well, you know what? The good thing is, because I'm a firm believer in adaptation, to a degree, right? Because it gets to a point where like, okay, yeah, the community can adapt, or something is just too overtuned that it does need to be dealt with. Like obviously Meta Knight and Brawl, Bayonetta and Smash 4, and there's other things like that. Apparently there was some Tekken character named Leroy or something like that that was absolutely fucking unreal.
Oh, yeah.
Android 21. Android 21 is it from DBZ Fighters was
specifically
actually
the human. Specifically the
human lab coat. They call it lab coat. She was the best character in that game's entire history, and nothing has ever been close. Not Ultra Instinct Goku, not Brawly, nothing. There's never been a character, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kenny, but nothing has ever even been close to lab coat in terms of just how ridiculous of a character she was.
I mean, she's pretty nuts. It's weird. Something I want every game to have. Street Fighter 4 had this amazing thing called Edition Select at the end of its life. And Edition Select, because Street Fighter 4 had Street Fighter 4, Super Street Fighter 4, Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, and then like version 2012, and then Ultra Street Fighter 4. And Edition Select allowed you to pick Chun-Li and then pick which version of Street Fighter 4 she was. So you could play like original Sagat which was like absurdly good.
Oh
and you could play against
that was
like
my character because I'm I'm a cheese lord. But that
so you
was
could
my
play
character.
original Street Fighter 4 Sagat, and you could verse like Super Street Fighter 4 Balrog or like Ultra Street Fighter 4 Volento, right?
Right.
It's one of the most amazing modes in any fighting game ever. So anyway, I wish more games did this. So to answer your question about lab coat, it's interesting because I would love to actually see the truth. Like I would love to see Season 2 GT Goku and Season 1 Android 16 and fucking pre-patch Ultra Instinct and like all these guys fighting to see if lab coat truly is the best. But what lab coat does is argument for the best just strictly on the fact that she has a move that when it hits you, it nerfs your damage, I think, by 21%.
That's exactly
forever. Right. Forever. Like it never wears off. Like she can die and forever you still are nerfed by 21%. It turns so many like 2-touch scenarios into like 3, 4, 5-touch scenarios. Like it makes you so much worse.
On top of that, she has the best frame data in the game.
Her frame data is insane. Her supers are really fucking good. Like her buttons are really good. She just has like really
she has
insane
the best mix up because she has a command grab. And like there's just a lot. So the character, I don't play DBZ fighters at all. I've never played the game in my life. But what I did do, because I just find certain things interesting, I went on YouTube with Gary one day because we were talking about it, and Gary was explaining to me like she's ridiculous. And I said, all right, I trust you, but I just want to do my own research. So we sat down and started watching YouTube videos of the best players and some of the best content creators for DBZ fighters, just doing videos on Android 21 lab coat. And they were explaining and doing gameplay, like as examples, they were explaining like why in any fighting game, this move being one frame would be absolutely not okay. Like they were just like this move, like this nerfing someone's damage, like Kenny said, by 21% for the entire game, no matter what happens to the character, nerfing their damage by 21%.
Switch out, they can't kill you. Like it doesn't matter.
Like the frame data, the fucking move set, everything about the character just screamed like this is super not okay. And the game has had other characters like Ultra Instinct Goku before he got nerfed. He was really ridiculous with his counters and stuff like that. But yeah, there are things that no matter what, adapting is asking people to adapt is ignorant. It's kind of like that's just not practical. Like you're asking people to do something that is not practical.
Yeah, it's interesting because I overall like favor the side of like adapt because I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in so many games, right? But there are some times where it's like something so cancer or toxic. Like for example, even UI Goku, where people really hated him and like hated a lot of things he did. I found him fun to play against because like he was frustrating, but like when you beat him and like when you got him to commit to like some kind of counter and then you essentially punished it, it was interesting and it was fun. The thing that's really like the 21% thing is the one that I hated the most. That's so frustrating about Android 21 is like there's a mechanic in the game called like limit break where you're down to your last character, you deal more damage, and it's a way for you to make a comeback. Because 1 versus 3, it's like if you have no assist and they still have 2 assists, like you probably can't win. But limit break made it so that you can make real comebacks, etc. If you saved your sparking, like blah blah blah. But Android 21 will make it so that it becomes literally impossible. Like your last character can't win. The rest of this game is a formality. But before, like you could make a 1v3 comeback, and with her, it's like,
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good
so
luck.
I like that. What's happening right now is that, and I did a video on this on the YouTube channel, on IMNerd Podcast YouTube channel, about Book of Moon and DD War Lady, but more of it was about Book of Moon and how 6 out of 8 decks in top 8 of Deck Devastators 3 were playing Book of Moon. A lot of them were playing 3 somewhere in their 45 card or 55 cards rather. A lot of them were playing 3. So they either played 3 in the main deck or played 1 in the main deck and sided 2 or some combination of that. But Book of Moon is one of the only answers in the format outside of Solemn Judgment, which is a one of. It's one of the only answers in a format that you could play 3 of, so you can reliably see it in 40% of your opening hands. Anything you play 3 of in a 40 card deck, you have a 40% chance of opening it essentially. So it's like 39.6, I think. So you basically have a 40% chance of having a card in your opening that can actually stop brain control in Book of Moon. And that is really good. So now a lot of people playing Book of Moon, and it does help against brain control. It makes it not guaranteed that this shit is going through, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I've been playing Edison format for like a year, and a lot of the time when I have brain control in my hand, I just assume it's going through. Like I don't assume that it's going to get, that the target that I use it on is going to get Book of Moon, because it wasn't really a thing until very recently where that card is just like everywhere. And now when you brain control somebody, they might book a moon it. And sure, like a lot of monsters have shitty defense, but depending on the situation, it could be really good. Like they brain control your pyramid turtle because they're trying to take it and tribute it so it doesn't get its effect. Book of mooning a pyramid turtle is actually really annoying and good for you because now your opponent gets no value. They paid 800 and your pyramid turtle's still there and in defense mode. And it's a recruiter. So there's like a lot of good things about it. Obviously, if you brain control your Caius, it kind of sucks because Caius has 1,000 defense. So even though they might not necessarily kill you that turn with the Caius like they intended to do, it's like, okay, he's probably just going to die though, like the Caius itself. But it's still better than you dying that turn or whatever. And yeah, just kind of want to say that. So people are, in a way, people are adapting. I don't necessarily think that it's just because of brain control that people are playing 3 Book of Moons, but it is a perk of Book of Moon being played the way it is right now that it dodges it and it will, prevent you from losing games to the most problematic card in the format. Okay. Yep. So Cairo, do you want to talk about your tournament experience for Deck Devastators 3? Because one of the things that people probably don't know, I don't know if you said this on your channel, you weren't even going to play in the tournament. And this is actually a thing about you living in Korea. Every tournament that you play in or Edison format is always going to be at some really shitty time for you because you're in a different day. Like right now, we're recording this episode on Sunday, but where Cairo lives in Korea, it is literally Monday morning for him. So
it's Sunday night right now where we're at.
Yes, we're in 2 different days. So when Cairo plays in RBETs or Deck Devastator tournaments, it's at like 4 a.m. his time. So he's usually sleep deprived, like just really tired and fatigue and stuff like that. Want to go to bed, might have work the next day if it's day 2, which in the case that happened with Deck Devastators. Not that it's not like we're jawing about it or talking about it in that way, but it is something to consider that in order for you to play in any tournament, because of where you live, it's always going to be at a really shitty time of day. So I just want you to kind of tell people your experience for this.
It's pretty funny because of course, like you said, I like to win, blah, 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 blah. But another thing about Yu-Gi-Oh that I like is like the team aspect of it, right? Like playing in tournaments with your friends. And even though like it's online, like we still come together and like, oh, like how was your round? How did you do? And that's fun to me. Like, oh, like I got sacked, or oh, like I won the round, like, oh, like how did you win? Like I love just like talking about Yu-Gi-Oh with my friends and all of us trying to advance and all of us trying to win. Like, oh, I hope I see you in the finals, like things like this, right? So I remember that day of the Edison event, right? So like I signed up last minute because I was just like, well, just in case. So I signed up last minute. And then like the day of the event, like I asked everyone, like Gary, Luke, you, like everyone, like I was like, hey, like, are any of you guys playing in the tournament? And everyone was like, no, I'm good. And I think you were going to see a movie that day.
Yeah, so it's just I had scheduled a movie and I had to go. I had a whole bunch of shit planned that day. I had a date. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to cancel all my plans because I made those plans before I even knew about this tournament. So I was like,
so for me, it wasn't even like it wasn't worth it. Basically, it wasn't worth it because it's like if my friends aren't going to be there, like by my side, then like what's the point? And like like you said, it's really late at night for me. It's like it starts at 2 a.m. and like I had company over too, so it was just like it's just like I don't want to distract my company, and it's just like it wasn't worth playing it. Well, I said this. I was like, all right, I already signed up. I'm gonna play the first round. And I was like, if I lose the first round, I'm going to bed. Yeah, like I was like, I'm not gonna like try to play this out. Like, oh, maybe I could get like X2 or something like that. I was like, no. Like I'm literally just going to just go to bed. And like I was like, all right. And I played the first round and I won. And I played the second round and I won. And I played the third round and I lost. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to bed early tonight. And then after that, I didn't lose anymore. Like I came first place in Swiss. So I went like 7 or 8-1, right? So the only round that I lost in Swiss was against Ragnar Frogs. And like I didn't get to play the game. For those of you guys who are curious about what happened, basically he just dropped double Christie on me, and it was just like, it was a non-game. But anyway, so I was like, wow, this actually worked out like really, really, really well. And then the problem was at the end of day 1, I was like 5 or 6-1. I don't know the exact amount of rounds. And it was like, well, now I'm facing the problem that you just mentioned, where it's like, now I got to wake up again So I'm already sleep deprived because, when you wake up really late, like you want to go to bed, like, let's say like the tournament's over at 8 a.m. You want to go to bed, but like you can't because there's daylight all around you. So like during that day, I tried to go to bed because I knew I had day 2, but like I couldn't sleep because it was too much light outside. And like I said, I had a company, so I had to spend time with my company. And then like now the next day I have work, but I also have the tournament happening at 2 a.m. again. So now I'm like super sleep deprived because I didn't sleep last night, the prior night. And it's just like, well, I'm not feeling like the best. And, so I made it since I was first in Swiss. I got a round 1 bye for the top 8 cut. I played out day 2 and I won the rest. But then after that, like I had the top 8 and had a round 1 bye. And then the next round, like, I don't know, maybe it's just kind of like the sleep deprivation like finally caught up to me because definitely like in hindsight being 2020, even the game that I lost to Brain Control, it could have been prevented. Like it could have been prevented because her final play was to summon a Swamp Frog in defense. And like, if you're doing that, you don't have Gores. You know what I mean? Like you want your opponent to like run into you. Like you don't have Gores. And her life points were under 23, right? So I had a way where I could have made Bionic, and it's like I didn't make it. And like, I don't know. Maybe I thought Vanities was better. Maybe I was tired, whatever. But like, I wound up losing to summoning Vanity's Fiend and outed it in the Brain Control. But like these tournaments are like really taxing on me. But it's like at the end of the day, if you love something, you're not going to care if you have to wake up at like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. Like you're just going to do it. You know what I mean? Yep. There's people who wake up at 2, 3 a.m. to like go to the gym and work out. And it's like, that's the only time that they have. They work up at 5 or 6 a.m. because like they know they're going to be busy the rest of the day. And it's like, this something that you said like kind of spoke to me, and it wasn't about Yu-Gi-Oh. It was about like DC, right? Because also like, I love playing DC. And then Fraser, you basically said like, you're not competitive in DC. And I hate being told that I'm not competitive in something because you know how much I like to win. And then you basically like, well, you don't go to tournaments, and like you listed the reasons, right? And one of the reasons was
this was a really big argument, like a real argument that me and Cairo had years ago now. But I have a group chat that doesn't include him, and it has everyone else in our friend group who we play in like these. We used to anyway because it's done now. But we play in this Overcard game, and all of the people who play in the tournaments and like test with us all the time, they're all in the group chat. And Cairo wanted to be in the group chat, and I was like, well, no, this group chat is literally called the competitive group chat. There's a group chat where it's just all of our friends, and we play in that group chat, whatever. But this one is called competitive, and like he said, I listed the reasons of why he's not in that group chat and why he shouldn't be added to that group chat either, because you're not doing those things. And I know, because Cairo, like I said, he's the person next to me who I think wants to win the most. So like that, being told you're not competitive fucking hurts. Like, it's like, oh, that is like one of the worst things you could hear as someone who is a competitive person in nature. But because of and it's really because of just the Korea thing. Like, it's not even his fault. I know if he lived in the States and was on our time, when a tournament is happening here at 12 p.m. or 1 p.m., which is literally like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. for him, he would be playing in it. But because he literally cannot, due to the time zone differences and all that stuff, it's like, yeah, unfortunately you can't do this. But if you really wanted to, and that's kind of what you were speaking to, if you really wanted to, some people get up, crazy times to go to the gym or do what they want.
Yeah. So basically when it came to Yu-Gi-Oh, especially because Yu-Gi-Oh obviously is way more important to me than DC, I was like, well, close. I'm going to play. Like, I don't care if I have to wake up early, like I'm going to play.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it sucked also that my friends didn't join me, but it was like, I'm going to play. Like, if I'm not doing anything, like, I'm going to play. So I played. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I did too. So I played and I did really well. And, I'm happy with how everything turned out. It's just like, it does suck because like, definitely congratulations to Carpath for winning the event. But I definitely think like I had a shot at legitimately winning the event. Like,
let me say this. Let me do this as a friend. Cairo, you need to buy some blackout blinds. Got to buy some blackout blinds, and then that way when you play in the middle of the night, and if you got to take a nap in the morning, you fucking bring those blinds down, and then your house just looks like nighttime.
Does that work, Kenny?
Yes, blackout blinds are the shit, man. They are awesome. Like at Ant's house, our friend Ant's been on the podcast a bunch. I used to go to his house probably every other month in New York. I would get on a bus and I'd go to his house like every other month because we would stream together and we would do random shit. After COVID, I stopped doing that. But anyway, I used to go to his house like every month, and I used to every other month. And for a point in time, like we'd be playing games or whatever, or streaming, and I couldn't see the TV because there would be a glare. And I'm like, dude, we got to do something about this. And then anyway, I got him to buy blackout blinds, and he put them up. And you put those blinds down in the middle of the afternoon, like it is nighttime in your like it is dark and no glare on the TV. You could easily go to sleep, even if like through a crack on the side, a little bit of light bleeds through. Like it is definitely dark in the house or the room or wherever you're at. Blackout blinds are the shit. And if for whatever reason you need to take a nap during the day, I highly suggest buying them.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I might invest in that because the first RBT that I topped, well, got ninth anyway. I remember because RBT runs a little bit differently than Deck Devastators, right? RBT, like, you can just play all your matches, like, because you already know who you're playing against. So it's like, you can just play all your matches. So it got to the point in like the RBT where it's like, I was so far ahead in the bracket, I had to wait like hours basically for my next opponent. And it's just like at 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, if you're not constantly doing something, you're going to fall asleep. So well, it's just like,
you know what you really need to invest in? You need to invest in a fucking return plan to the United States. Because fuck these blinds. You need to just move back to, this is a bullet point that I actually have on my screen right now for this conversation. But I really want Cairo to move back to the United States. I mean,
we all want that. But even if he moves back to the US, he still needs the blackout blinds, man. They're top tier.
I mean, be that as it may, he won't need them for Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments specifically all the time because he'll just be on the same time as most of the tournaments. And that is just... like, I just want to have my competitive friend near me because I think that me and Cairo could do a lot of damage if, like, I don't have it. Like, right now, the person who plays Yu-Gi-Oh! With me the most is Stango. And Stango literally started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! At the beginning of the pandemic. So Stango is about 2.5, 3 years old in Yu-Gi-Oh! Max. Like, of his entire life, he's been playing the game for 2.5 to 3 years max, okay? So he's not on the level of, like, upper echelon, able to, you know, some of the concepts and stuff like that and the experience that you need to be where I'm at and where Cairo is, it's going to take more time. And it's frustrating for me because I would like to have someone as competitive as me playing Edison. Like I said, McCabe doesn't actually play Edison that much. He's just a brilliant deck builder and he's also very good technical skill and stuff like that. But he doesn't play that much because he has like his own life stuff going on. Silverman prefers to play Modern, apparently. He's currently trying to win another 3v3 YCS as we speak. And Luke Feeney, as brilliant as he is, he doesn't even like playing Edison format because he likes to play these bullshit decks like Macro Monarchs and stuff. When I'm like, bro, there are 28 deck lists that I did on my tier list. I did a tier list on 28 different types of decks. You played none of them. Like, you could just play, like, even some decks that are in C tier or whatever, you're choosing to have a bad time. Like, you are making a conscious decision to have a bad time. You're like, oh, format's kind of shit, blah, blah. I'm like, the format is shit because you play shit. It's not shit because, like, the format is shit.
I listed 28 decks at least that are better than yours.
And you play none of them.
It's funny that you mentioned Luke because everyone knows, at least in our friend group, knows that Luke is cracked at card games. He's really good at them. And, like, one of the reasons why, and I spoke to Luke about this a long time ago, one of the reasons why he stopped playing Edison was because Black Wings were just rampant. They were everywhere.
It was just dominating.
But now that the format's, you know, I'm not going to say it's soft, but now that the format's evolving and Black Wings aren't, you know, as dominant as they were, I do think it's a good opportunity for Luke to, like, get back in the fray and, like, play again because...
no pun intended.
Yeah.
But yes, like, I don't have a competitive Edison friend right now, and it kind of sucks because I usually have one person who's also as competitive as me, and then what we'll do is kind of like bounce off of each other to get better and to like come up with ideas and stuff like that. And that doesn't exist right now. Like, my McCabe is gone, Luke is bullshitting, so it's just like if Cairo was here, I would at least have Cairo as that person, but I'm just kind of out here doing it all on my own. Like, god damn it, this is annoying.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely know what you mean, and like I hate that feeling because at the end of the day, you have to rely on yourself. But it's just so much easier when you have someone, a team, people like you can bounce ideas off.
I had to tell Cairo, put them fucking gold sharks back in. Put them fucking gold sharks back in, nigga.
That's right.
Put them gold sharks back in.
That's right. And I listened, and I fucking listened.
And it has done you well. You finished first in Swiss, which is honestly in my entire Yu-Gi-Oh life, I think I've only done that 2 times at majors and a lot of times at regionals, but at majors, it's really, really hard to finish first in Swiss. Like, that is fucking very, very difficult. So the fact that you did that, that's a huge accomplishment. Like, first in Swiss is insane.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely wasn't easy. And like, there were some games where my opponents opened up fucking the nuts. The craziest game that I played.
Your Future Fusion guy was definitely one of them. Like,
yes, that's what I was about to say. The craziest game that I played, game 1, the guy goes, play Future Fusion. And I'm like, here we go again. And then he starts sending dragons. I'm like, well, of course. But he doesn't start sending like, the traditional dragons, right? He starts sending the dragons that are specifically played in Hopeless Dragon, like i.e. Dark Horse. And I'm just like, come the fuck on. So I was like, this guy has Neuralis too. And then he like summons Phantom of Chaos. And I'm like, yup. And then he goes card destruction, sends a Neuralis to the grave. And I'm like, yup. And then he card destructions into a fucking gold Sark, and he gold Sarks for Dark Creator. So I'm like, this guy literally had the perfect fucking opening. He has a fucking 5-head that he has basically, well, I mean, his field's going to get blown up. But the point is, his graveyard is all set up. He has Dark Creator coming in 2 turns, and he Neuralis to me. Literally the best fucking opening.
If I could pick my hand every game, it would basically be what you just said.
Yeah. And he still lost that game. But like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, my opponents open up fucking nutty some games. And I was just like, all right, well, here we go.
Yeah, so, it'd be like that sometimes. And sometimes you still fight through it. And those games feel better than anything else.
Oh, I felt great when I won that game. I felt so fucking good when I won that game. But it's just like, yeah, I mean, and I did it without the help of brain control.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, he took all your cards.
Yeah, he took all of them. He took all of them.
I have no cards. I would like some, but I have none.
I want to ask real quick because I was hearing that you play Diva Hero. I was hearing people were saying that Return from a Different Dimension is a bad card in that deck.
And people were saying, Kennedy reading the group chat.
I want to hear about this because I've been hearing that there's people that play Diva Hero or experiment with the deck, and they're saying that like I don't know why this a true hero fella. I don't know why he played Return from a Different Dimension.
Well, Penguin Soldier
it's
next.
So funny. It's so funny because a lot of cards, Return from a Different Dimension, Penguin Soldier, etc. A lot of these cards that I played in my deck, I addressed their utility and their purpose in the deck in my YouTube video. But like me, I guess not everybody watched it. But
hold on. Wait a second. I did watch it, but I'm going to talk about it again for anybody that is watching the podcast, but also to plug the YouTube channel again, ATrueHero. Go check it out. It's a good YouTube channel. His most video is called X Saber's Going to Give It to You.
And the channel will be tagged. A link to the channel will be tagged in the description of this video, of this podcast anyway. So
yeah. So as for Return, first of all, let's think about the format. Let's think about cards that are at 1 and cards that are banned. Call of Haunted, 1. Monster Reborn, banned. So these cards essentially, they get monsters out the graveyard. Return from a Different Dimension essentially does the same thing, right? Except for instead of the graveyard, you get it from the Banish Zone. And Call of Haunted gets 1 card. Monster Reborn gets 1 card. Return from a Different Dimension can get fucking 5. Right? Like, that alone should be convincing enough as to why you should be playing it in your deck.
Would you play a card that said, play this 1 card and summon 5? Would you play that card?
and it's just like, the cost is irrelevant because you're always going to have half your life points. You know what I mean? You're always going to be able to activate Return. It's always going to be, the only time when it's dead is when you don't have cards in the Banish Zone. And in a deck like Absolute Zero, it's very easy to banish cards. You can banish them with cards like Miracle Fusion, obviously. Malicious banishes itself. Plague banishes itself. And there's even been some games where it's like, I can go Gold Sark. I could go Gold Sark for a Plague, and then I can return it. I can go Allure. And Allure Darkness makes it so that every single dark monster in the deck, except for Darkharm Dragon, can at some point come back into the field again because of Return. Allure Caius, return it. Allure Malicious, return it. It's just like
another thing too. You also still have Darkharm Dragon, so you can bring back the cards he uses.
And go ahead, Kenny. What were you going to say?
I was going to say on top of all of that, you have your opponent's DD Crows.
There you go. I was going to say on top of all of that, you have your opponent's D Prisons and Bottomless Trap Holes and Caiuses that are also furthering your Return from Different Dimensions. So to me, that is one of the best trap cards, not only in Edison format, but in the game. Like Return is just there's a format called Dad Return. Like it has its own format. Return has its own format. He got his own money, if you know, coming to America. But yeah, Return is really that card. And I don't think there's a world where I wouldn't play it. There are games in Deck Devastators 3, if people watched a YouTube video that Cairo did, your replays, there were games where return was the reason why you won the game. It's that powerful. Like literally the game came down to, all right, I've made you use all of your resources. We both have very few cards or none, and I'm just going to activate return. They just scoop. So yeah, return's ridiculous. It is a game stealing card, a game winning card. It could defend your life points randomly. Obviously that's like the worst case scenario, but you never know what could happen. Like you might be able to come back after
your life points is better than 0.
It is.
That's right.
And you still
I even said in my YouTube video, I was like, if there's only one trap card I could play, it would be return. Like it's just that card. It's that card. It's really I'd rather have return over Mirror Force, Torrential, Dust Shoot. I'd rather have return. Like give me fucking return.
Oh, faithful.
Yes. Because I know if I resolve this card, it's over. The game is over.
What about this Penguin Soldier? What happened with that? Were you sleep deprived, King? Were you suffering from sleep deprivation?
That. I still think Penguin Soldier's sick. When I saw that in his deck list, I was like, hell yeah.
So the thing about Penguin Soldier, right, is for those of you, my close friends know I'm always trying out like different tech cards and
Tech of the week.
There was one point I was running the exchange.
There was one point where you were putting Travelers through an ordeal.
Listen, I'm still a firm believer in Ordeal, okay?
I am too.
Given up all hope for that card.
I am too. That card's great.
Yes, I do think the card's great. And like it might come up like in a future tournament or something like that. But it always, depends on the current state of the meta. The problem is right now with Monarchs being like so crazy, you don't want Ordeal in your deck. You don't want Ordeal or Monarch. And like it's always a card for a Monarch to hit. Like, but anyway, this isn't about Ordeal. This is about Penguin Soldier. So as far as Penguin Soldier goes, I had a lot of reasons as to why I put it in. One, it's a water monster. So let's start there. And if you look at my list, I do not play Snowman Eater. Okay. So I don't play Snowman Eater. And I was like, well, I might need an additional water monster. And Snowman Eater is a great card. He's a great card. 1900 defense, hard to beat over. Like he walls a lot of the format. You know what I mean? But the problem is after you flip him up, other than being a wall, I mean, he's also tribute fodder for Caius. He doesn't really do much. He doesn't really, lead into an offensive game state. But Penguin Soldier can be both defensive and offensive, right? He can be defensive because one, he returns 2 of your opponent's cards. And he can be offensive because a lot of times opponents don't really swarm the field with monsters. So when you're returning 2 of your opponent's cards, now you're in an offensive position because you can just attack them directly. And also Penguin Soldier outs a lot of problematic cards. If there's a synchro, goodbye. If there's a fusion, goodbye. You know what I mean? And he's just an easy requirement. All you do is just, you set him. He's low commitment. So I was like, okay, Penguin Soldier could have a lot of versatility in this format. So let me try him out. And the thing that I've noticed is Penguin Soldier is only good in theory, despite
it's
all
so weird because on paper, I was arguing on paper what it can do. And all the things I said, I was like, these are all valid things, right? Like bouncing 2 synchros. People often go Stardust with another monster. That's a synchro. Like you said, fusion monsters. There's cases where Fossil Dyna wouldn't cut it because your opponent happened to summon Stardust. And so that just doesn't do anything in that case. But Penguin Soldier doesn't destroy, it bounces, and it can even be used on your own card. So I was like, imagine you summon Stratos and then you flip Penguin Soldier and then bounce your Stratos and bounce there. Like I was coming up with all of these plays, but like you said, it's only in theory.
Yeah. It's similar to like Call It a Haunted, right? Because I tested so many variants of Diva Hero, and like I tested out Call It a Haunted, and like in theory, Call It a Haunted sounds so good. You call it Haunted Stratos, you call it Haunted Card Trooper, you call it Haunted a Tuner, but then it just like it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and we tested. Me and you specifically tested that card out, and it was awful. Like it just somehow it just wasn't doing. Now it's crazy because in a deck that's very similar, plays 20 plus 1 of just like yours. It happens to be ridiculous in zombies. Like it's absolutely insane, but it really is because Goblin Zombie is just that ridiculous of a card. But you don't have a Goblin Zombie equivalent that unlocks your entire deck.
That's right.
So
that's exactly right. Yeah. So anyway, so Penguin Soldier, I tested him out, and I didn't get a chance to like thoroughly test Penguin Soldier out with my friends, or else I would have known for the tournament. Don't fucking play that card.
Yeah.
What
would you play?
And like I said. the decision to enter in the tournament was also last minute. So I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. We'll just get there. And if you watch a lot of like, I have the whole tournament run uploaded on the channel, right? If you watch it, I can only recall literally one game where I pulled Penguin Soldier. Only one game. And that one game where I pulled it, it was against Karina. And so it was the top 8 match. And she's playing Monarchs. So like we're in a game state where it's draw, pass. None of us are committing anything to the field. And like I love that play style because Absolute Zero could just kill you out of nowhere. So we're just drawing, passing, and then I draw for turn, I draw a Penguin Soldier. And I'm like, okay, I will set this Penguin Soldier, and then next turn I'm going to, make some plays. And as soon as I set Penguin Soldier on the field, that's exactly what Karina wanted me to do. She wanted me to commit a card to the field, that way she could do her Monarch plays. And then she goes, end phase, activate Scapegoat. And then on her turn, she goes, summon Substitute. And then like she just fucking goes the fuck off. Like it gets really, really bad. And long story short, the Penguin Soldier wound up not resolving. Like I never even got to see its effect that one game that I drew it. And all the other games, like games 2 and game 3, for literally every game 2 and game 3, sided it out. That's why no other opponent except for Karina saw Penguin Soldier. I sided that shit out every single game. Because at the end of the day, even though Penguin Soldier was nice in theory, it's just like, if I'm going against Quick Draw, would I rather have a DD Crow or would I rather have a Penguin Soldier? I'd rather have a fucking DD Crow. You know what I mean? If I'm going against, I don't know, Monarchs, would I rather have a Falso Dyna or would I rather have a... I was going to say,
you definitely don't want Penguin Soldier against Monarchs. Like,
sure. Exactly.
You can put my Monarchs back in my hand. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's like the problem with Diva Hero, this is another kind of, I guess, weakness, is like, there are cards you have to play. You cannot side those cards out because you need to keep your heroes in. You need to keep your waters in because the deck already struggles with sometimes not having enough heroes, not having enough waters. If you side those cards out, then you're making your deck more inconsistent. And also, you can't side out Miracle Fusion because if you side out Miracle Fusion, you're literally siding out the best card in your deck. So it's like there are so many cards that absolutely have to stay in the deck. So it's just like there's very, few room that you have like for cards to take out. So it's like all this into consideration. It's just like, well, Penguin Soldier, you didn't make the cut. There are cards that I'd rather have over than you. So like every game 2 and game 3, like I sided Penguin Soldier out. And like Penguin Soldier, he's not beating over anything. I'm not going to summon and go on an offensive, slot with him. So it's just like he just was only good in theory. And like I will stand by this. Cool tech card, and like I'm happy to all the people say, "Oh, Kyle, you're so cool for playing Penguin Soldier." Don't fucking play that card. Like, if you want to win, like, just don't play that card. And like, I was watching because I watch all of you guys' YouTube videos. I watch them all, and like one of the YouTube videos about the tournament, there was a guy on your channel that basically said, "I never thought I'd see the day where I'd have Penguin Soldier in my TCG card," and I was just like, "That day hasn't come. That day hasn't come." Why are you fucking putting that shit in your TCG card? Like, I'm not trying to fucking troll. Like, that card literally could have been a fucking Cloudian monster. It could have been any fucking card. It could have been fucking like a random fucking Arcana Force monster. Just to prove to you, like,
not
it was just a dead card.
It was a really cool card. Everything it does is really cool in theory, but at the end of the day, you're not playing it again. So people that are looking at the top 8 deck list and like, holy shit, this guy made it really far with Diva Heroes, Penguin Soldiers in this deck. You're saying like Penguin Soldier is not what got you there. Like, don't buy it. It's don't include that in the deck list.
Yep. So
okay. So what would you play instead of Penguin Soldier? I asked this like randomly in passing about 10 minutes ago, and I don't know.
I'm sorry if I missed that, but
no,
basically,
you were talking. It's fine.
Tomato, 100% Mystic Tomato.
Okay.
I mean, because this is why, right? Penguin Soldier, he's not a warder, he's not a hero, but he gives you access to both.
Yes.
One, hero, he could search out Malicious, and he could search out Infernal Prodigy if needed. And 2, he could search out Sangan, and Sangan searches out a warder. So Mystic Tomato essentially searches out both a hero and a warder. And also, this doesn't happen often because I mentioned before in one of my YouTube videos, like, unless absolutely necessary, good players don't attack face-down monsters because nothing goes right when you attack a face-down monster unless it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
And like, if you attack a tomato, let's say I have a tuner in my hand. Let's say I have Diva or like Plague in my hand, right? And I have just Tomato set. If you attack Tomato and I get Malicious, next turn you're fucked. That is 2 level 8 synchros that's coming down your way just because you attacked the fucking Tomato. summon Plague, Synchro, make Stardust, banish Mally for Mally, Synchro, make Colossal, Darken, whatever. Just like that. Just because you attacked a fucking tomato.
Yep.
But tomato is like, it's so powerful because it gives you access to both sides of your deck. And also, I mean, 14 is not bad. You know what I mean? It's decent attack points. And worst comes to worst, it's not ideal, but like if they don't attack it because, you know, good players not really attacking face downs often, you contribute it off for Caius. And another thing is, in my Diva Hero deck list, I don't play that many level 4 monsters. I only play 2, which are Stratos and Grepher. That's it. Those are the level 4 monsters I play. And the reason why level 4 monsters are so important in Diva Hero is because Brionic is a water monster that discards cards, especially cards like Malicious, Treeborn, Plague, whatever. So in order to make Brionic, the most common way is 4+2, right? And because I only play 2 level 4 monsters, by adding a tomato in the deck gives you another chance at making Brionic. You know what I mean? So this is why tomato is so important, especially over Penguin Soldier, because Penguin Soldier, he's only 2 stars. So it's just like, what are you going to make? Like Army Arm? You know what I mean? It's just like Evil Hero Infernal Prodigy is already covering that role. So tomato provides the role of 1, giving access to both sides of the deck, 2, being a level 4 monster, and like 3, like I said, worst comes to worst, he's tribute fodder for Caius. So he's really, really, really good, and I definitely recommend playing that over Penguin Soldier.
Okay. I agree with the tomato thing, only because I have experience with that recently from playing Nazara Sarhan's zombie deck where he plays double Malicious, no other heroes at all, and he plays triple tomato and 1 pyramid turtle. So his goal is for you to, at some point, either attack his tomato or he will just start threatening you with those ignorant zombie combos that OTK you. Because it's like, when he sets a monster, you know he's playing zombies. Your fear is always going to be, if that's a goblin zombie, I don't want that to be on the field. Because that shit causes so many problems when they go summon Diva and all that. So you're scared to leave it, but you're also scared to attack. And if you attack, it gets Malicious, like you said, then it's 2 level 8 synchros on top of all of the zombie shit that can go wrong. So it's a really, really powerful card and definitely better than Penguin Soldier, both in theory and in just actual like playability. So I get it. Okay, so we're about 2 hours in almost. So let's start to wrap up. But I do want to say there's a PS5 tournament this weekend coming up, February, what is it, the 25th or something like that? So next weekend. And you're actually returning to the United States to play in that tournament, correct?
Yes, I know. So it's really funny, right? Because I know a lot of people listening are like, why are you flying from Korea to play in a PS5 tournament? Like, the flight is going to cost more.
Because he's rich as fuck. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, let's just say like that. All right, let's just say like that.
Let's just end it
For
right
me,
there.
flights they don't mean anything. So I'm actually going to be flying to America just to play. I mean, not only just to play in a PS5 tournament. That's of course the number one purpose, but also like to hang out with my friends, because like the last time before this winter that I was in America was literally 3 years ago. You know what I mean? So I don't get to see like my close friends often, like at all. And like I've been living in Korea for a long time, and like I have, you know, people I'm cool with, like, but at the end of the day, my lifelong, deeply rooted friends are in America, you know? Yeah. So any chance I get to spend with them is like, it's really special and valuable time to me. But yeah, so to get back on topic, yeah, I will be flying to America to participate in the PS5 tournament, and I'm planning on playing Diva Heroes, of course.
Yeah, I made the mistake. Be surprised.
Yeah, I made the mistake of ordering all my cards last minute, but I have faith. I have faith that they'll arrive.
Yeah, and even if you don't get them, I'll probably just have everything realistic. I'm not playing Diva Hero, so anyone listening to this, unless Cairo destroys me tonight before with Diva Hero, and I'm like, fuck this, I'm also playing this deck tomorrow. I need to win this tournament with Diva Hero. But no, realistically, I will not be playing Diva Hero. I'm actually a little undecided on my deck. I'm like 50-50 between 2 decks right now. But we'll see what happens next week. I'm pretty confident in my technical play. Like, I'm just one of those people that's really good at technical play in Yu-Gi-Oh, especially in person, where I don't have to worry about, like, you know, moving a mouse and all that stuff. So I'll be playing in the PS5 tournament as well as a bunch of other friends of ours. And yeah, it should be a good time hanging out with a true hero here and, you know, just shooting the shit before he goes back off to Korea and leaves me to my competitive loneliness.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I need
but yeah, eventually at some point I do plan on coming back to America, like for good. You know, right now, without, you know, getting into too much of a personal thing, it just comes down to like when I do come back, nobody wants to live at home with, their parents.
Right.
Especially after you've been living independently for so many years, like to go back and to like kind of revert and live with your parents, it's a bit of a setback. So when I, get in a better situation, I'll definitely come back.
Okay. Well, that sounds good to me. Thank you so much for coming on to the IMNerd Podcast, Cairo. People, please go and subscribe to his YouTube channel at ATrueHero. Again, that'll be in the description of this podcast episode. And we will catch you all in the next one. As I always say, do the things that make you happy. Also, I almost forgot, we have a Patreon, and we are one person away from being at 50 patrons. I actually posted this on Facebook today.
And you guys know, after we get past 50, then I have to start reading shit.
For the first time, Kenny will be reading.
If you want to make me read shit and you really want to hear me mess some stuff up, you got to get us over 50.
Yeah, so we're at 49. 49 people are currently patrons of the IMNerd Podcast. And I just think that is the craziest thing. I love that so much.
Thanks for people have been subscribing to our YouTube channel. We made it. We're over 600 now.
Yes.
We're trying to push for 1,000, but we hit the 500 push, and I big appreciate it.
And once we get to 1,000, when we hit 1,000, I'm planning to do, like I've mentioned before, but I'm planning to do a subathon where I will be streaming for 24 hours straight. So that'll be something fun. I'll be playing, obviously, a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! I might be playing God of War, depending on where I am with that game. Octopath Traveler 2 is coming out. So I have Smash Ultimate. I have Nintendo Online still. I don't think they deactivated my shit yet. So I have a lot of games and stuff that I could play on stream and just talking with chat. And if there happens to be like a YCS or something that I didn't go to, because there's a bunch of foreign ones too, if it's on one of those weekends, that could be great. We could watch that together. But I was just planning to do this type of thing once we hit 1,000. And yeah, so that's our current goal. And I would appreciate if you're listening to this, subscribing to our YouTube channel. That would be awesome. But also the Patreon, where there's a lot of exclusive content. I upload videos to the Patreon basically every day now, which is so wild. And our YouTube channel as well. So we have videos every single day between clips and Edison format content, video content from the actual podcast that Kenny puts together. So there's a lot going on. We have a lot of stuff. But without further ado, let me give a shout out to our 49 patrons. All right, we got Connie, Austin, Leon, Quest, Garen, Xavier, Hylian, Dimitri Barnes, Vinny Casello, Giovanni Avalos, Alex Flamer, Ari Reynolds, CJ, WK Dad 1, Dan Varable, First to Home, Dalis Ferneris, Estada Akuma, Mitchell Naus, Midwest Gaming, William Shapiro, Dimitri Safirdes, Vince Marquette, Dallas Bailey, Roz Weiss, Nick Stango, Hanto, our two-time national champion, Vincent Zen, Sarah Maria, Sunny Top Cut Podcast, Alex Ahern, Philip Campa, Jalen Haskins, Arali Melfi Slump, Chris Lynn, Jeff Luang, Wookie 159, Connor LK, MSW 2389, Edison Club, Kyle Batelho, Brandon Moore, Sugal, Nick, Eric Natha, Corey Fowler, Omar Ramos, and Elijah Barfoth. I think I said that right. Elijah Barfoth. So Elijah, special shout out to you and Omar, our two newest Patreon members. Both of you joined in the last,
thank you.
Like, what is that? 3 days, 4 or 5 days or something like that. We got 2 new party members, which is great. If you guys haven't joined the Discord server and you're a patron, please message me so I can send you a link to our Discord server. I usually send a link to everyone who subscribes to the Patreon. No matter what tier you are, you get a link to the Patreon, you get a link to the Discord server, and it's, you stay in there in perpetuity. Of course, unless you like do something crazy in there, which no one has done yet, thank God. So if you want access to that, you can subscribe at the lowest tier to get access to the Discord server. And our Yu-Gi-Oh channel in particular is always popping, but we have a ton of channels. We have a channel for sports, a channel for TV shows, for movies, for fashion, for all types of random shit, for rants. Like literally people just rant in certain channels. So if you're into that type of thing, check it out. But as I always say, guys, do the things that make you happy. We're getting out of here. Again, thank you, Cairo, for joining us. I will see you this week for the PS5 tournament.
Definitely a pleasure being here. Thanks again.
Yes, no problem. And maybe we'll do a big Edison podcast where like me, you, Stango, but we might bring Luke into it, Gary. Like we could just do like a big podcast where we just have all the boys together and we just talk and rant. It'll probably be chaotic as fuck. It'll probably be chaotic, but it'll be fun.
Do you have any closing words or shout outs or anything, Cairo?
Yeah, I mean, I do have a couple closing words. First of all, shout outs to the power of friendship.
Yes.
That's definitely the most important one,
A true friend.
A true friend, right? You said it, a true friend. The spirit of camaraderie. So shout out to that, to over 10, 15 years of friendship. I'm happy to see like all of us, growing together. And 2, I mean, I gotta say, like, if you guys are at 49 patrons, I think I might know who the 50th one will be. If it means we're gonna start reading out shit, I think I might know who the 50th one would be.
Ooh.
So definitely expect a Patreon over here from a true hero. All right, I'm trying to get there for 50. All right, I'm gonna try to get there.
That would be great.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, peace out. We will catch you in the next one.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Cairo. So long, Gabe Bowser.